Welcome to the Log Time Podcast. If memory serves, we tackled Big O this time and things got weird. We come for the giant mechs and nostalgia, and stay for the whiplash and us collectively losing our minds over how good this show actually is.
So, let's... So Big O.
I
The
think
biggest letter of the alphabet.
I don't think that's true.
It wasn't that funny, but I think we just lost him.
No, is that how we're starting this?
The biggest letter... I mean, it's obvious.
It's not, though.
How is it not obvious? It's in the title.
Look. O. Like, O is big. Q is literally an O with a line through it. Though. Like, that's more surface area.
What?
You said O is the biggest letter of the alphabet.
The whole alphabet.
There's a whole 25 other letters to look through, my dude.
Okay, but, like, this has the word big in front of it. Now you're making me look stupid.
No.
This has nothing to do with the show.
The title is not Big O, it's The Big O.
Yeah,
that
means it's a big letter O.
Yes, but you're saying it is the biggest letter of the alphabet, and it is not.
It is in this case.
Okay.
Accept it.
Yeah, alright. Sure.
Okay.
You guys make me look like an idiot. That's not even what I meant. I just meant not in the... Just
in the
let's move
title,
on.
it's the biggest letter.
Yes, because it's the only... It's... Okay.
You should have just said it's the biggest letter in the title. You literally said it's the biggest letter in the alphabet.
It is in this case.
Matt, I love you.
I can't believe this is going to be the first 5 minutes of this podcast, and we're going to be talking about the size of the letter O in the show, The Big O.
I can just cut this.
Oh no,
This
please
can
don't.
just-
Please don't.
I just want to die now.
Oh no, Matt.
No.
Alright, so...
There's enough of that in the show as it is. It's okay. We don't need to add you to the body count.
Oh my god.
So for all of its mess ups for the second part of this show, I still really like this show.
Big O's great.
It's great. It is such a fun blend of Batman, film noir, and giant mecha. And they're unashamedly, like, just doing it in that same way. Like, we don't even worry about the random people on the street whenever there's giant mechs fighting. It's like, no, ignore that part. It's not important. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, no. It's just, it's we're here to do one thing, and you're going to watch us do the one thing, and it kind of doesn't matter what happens.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, gosh. I even will argue that, like, it bumbles it, but I did like the idea of, like, calling back to the original giant mecha, like, giant monster battles, in that everything is on a stage floor, and, like, this all is just part of a, like, overarching show that's being played out for an audience. Like, I liked that idea, even as crazy, as fucking insane as it was getting towards the end of it. I liked that. They just kind of bungled it a little bit.
I'm not gonna argue that, like, yeah, like what you said, like, I mean, I like the show too, and I think I like that idea that it was trying to get across, but I honestly think that I could have liked the show so much more had it just, like...
Just been the first season?
No, not even that, really. I wouldn't even argue that. I don't know. I just felt like it was kind of disjointed in a lot of segments, and I was like, I don't know. It kind of felt like confused on what it wanted to be at certain points.
As much as I want to talk about this whole second half of the show,
You want to rock out to that first half?
is that okay? Can we do that?
Yeah, no, I'm down. Let's do it.
Or Matt, do you just want to like get to the weird nitty gritty stuff? I feel like we have to give some context.
I'm you can do it in however order you want. Like, we can talk about the first half.
So
That's
I'm
fine.
actually really sad after like reading into it, like the stuff that you guys linked, that Japan just didn't like the first half of the show. I'm like, oh fucking why? It's great.
Well,
The first 13 episodes are great. They're amazing.
you also have to remember that, like, think about this. Like, when Space Dandy aired, it was not also popular in Japan.
Yeah,
It
for
was
some
just-
reason it's just like there's not a ton of love for like westernization.
Yeah, I don't really know why. It's just not a thing, I guess. I don't know if the market's changed in the past, like...
I feel like
I
it
don't know when Space
probably has, because like I mean this was
I mean,
the 90s.
I don't know. It didn't change much since Big O and Space Dandy, so I don't know.
Well, I mean,
Like, I
like
don't know.
in much the same way. Like, so for instance, there was the other show that was kind of like Isekai Shokudo that aired a couple years ago. That was basically structured like a Japanese variety show.
Yeah,
where
you
it
talked
had,
about that.
Yeah, and so I'm sure that there's people in Japan that really like that, but I was super not into its style, in that it is a very like Japanese variety TV show kind of style thing, and that just didn't mesh with me. So I feel like there is a lot of cultural differences of like what is actually interesting and popular. I can't speak to that, of course, with any.
Isekai something.
It was
Isekaya?
it was the
Yeah,
Isekai
that's it.
Isekai. It was the one about the bar, which I was so sad about because the manga's fucking great. And then apparently they just did not adapt it.
But basically,
The market's different.
yes.
That's what you're
And
trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, and Big O's first season was really kind of riding high on the rule of cool kind of vibe that had been going since like Cowboy Bebop and other stuff.
Oh yeah,
Um,
and also you have to remember that around the same time that this was going on, the last season of Batman the Animated Series was wrapping up, and that was a huge boom in the animation industry, not just in America, where everyone was like, "Oh fuck, that's how you do a show." Okay, so
Yeah, it's very interesting to see this show work in the way it does, because I love the absolute base premise of it is kind of an homage to a lot of different cartoons and kind of shows from, you know, the times these animators were younger and such.
yeah.
And so there's this idea of like, hey, I love the idea of throwing together Batman the Animated Series and like kaiju fight mech anime and all sorts of other stuff.
And some
And it has
real
this weird-
sexy film noir.
Yeah, and so this show that acts as a weird kind of mishmash or conglomeration of all these different ideas in the setting of a ruined city with no past, no one knows what's outside of it, and everyone's just kind of okay that no one has memories. Like it's such an enticing idea,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, this is just bizarre. This is weird, but we have a really cocky Batman-esque protagonist that has a giant mech that delivers quirky one-liners. He's kind of a buffoon, but still gets the job done. And it's just...
is also voiced in the dub by Steve Bloom, who is one of the sexiest voice actors.
Yes. Like, how can you not love it?
Yeah.
And so
I didn't watch the dub.
Yeah, that's fine.
That tracks, and that's fine.
It was just fine.
And so like ultimately it's such a good package altogether, and the episodic style that it goes for, and the way that it kind of develops its characters, but largely leaves it to this idea of, well, we're not really going to explain too much. We're just kind of gonna set it out there and just have fun with it.
Yeah, we're here for the fun.
Yeah,
it was so enticing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like in the first half they didn't even go for like really any like overarching story or anything.
No, like,
they were just like here's your
Zack
world.
It's episodic, yeah.
Yeah, here's your world. Here's some episodic. Almost like I almost felt like I'd never seen the show, but maybe like Kino's Journey-esque in terms of like exploring like a different segment of like this town.
Yeah. So it's like, here's how this one particular area works. Here's how this different nation state works, etc. Yeah, I never really thought about that, but yeah, it kind of does have that sense of similarity. It's exploring a different aspect of like Paradigm City and things of that nature.
Yeah, and also like
different characters each
yeah,
time.
I was gonna say typically it's also having like a really nice like character description of one person that lives in this city. And like,
and I just
yeah.
The idea that this is a show in its first half that is so largely an exploration of a concept and an idea of a location and the people that go in there, it more than that, it's a character study almost.
Yeah,
is or a series of character studies is so cool. And I love the small bits of interaction that all the characters get. And again, they don't go to extreme lengths to over describe this stuff, because the whole first half there is this consistent talk about amnesia and memories memories as a commodity, and they never once explain what the fuck memories actually serve as in this world, how one accesses them, how one uses them. Because they talk about, oh my god, there's all sorts of memories trapped in this giant robot or in this city. It's like, okay, well, you're trying to get them. How are you going to get them? How are you going to access them? What are you going to use them for? There's never an explanation.
What even is a memory?
Says. Yes, exactly. There's
How would you even know if you saw it?
There's no description for it whatsoever. And the fact of the matter is...
That was okay.
Yes, honestly. Exactly. I did not care at all, because the whole show itself, the sum of its parts, the way that it actually worked to convey its story, its world, its characters, I was in. I was 100% here for it.
Yeah.
And it was so fascinating to watch.
I don't even usually like shows like this, where like, they use the world to kind of like detail out. Like, I guess I'm used to like a more like, narrative approach where they like, the characters do story via dialogue
instead of the world being the character.
Yeah. I guess I was more used to that, but then like once I got the idea of what the show was trying to do, I ended up really liking it. A lot.
I was surprised how much you said that you were enjoying it whenever you were going through the first season, and I was like, oh hell yeah. Because I was like, this is my childhood. This is another one that I pulled up from the dredges of the 90s.
Yeah, and honestly, like, the first couple episodes, I was kind of like, but then I was like, oh, okay, like, I can get into this, and then, I really liked some of the early on episodes.
Yeah.
They were really good, and I just liked the overall storytelling approach. I thought it was really, really, I don't know, it just felt really good, like, solid. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it, didn't see any problems. I was like, I'm just okay with trying to figure out what the memories are for myself for once.
Yeah. And absolutely. And by the end of episode 13, where we got to this, final climax of, Roger and Dorothy are up against 3 Megadeuces, and it's just the final, it's showtime. And still, by the end of that, nothing at all is explained. We're kind of still back to square one of, we have no idea what the fuck memories are as a commodity or as a concept or as a thing, how they would use it.
Where are these things coming from? What are they? Who built them? all this other stuff.
Yes. So much is just completely unexplained, and I was wholly satisfied with that.
Same, actually.
Because, like, it is clear, and like looking at production notes and things of that nature, from the idea that it initially was not supposed to be, well, it was initially supposed to be 26 episodes, but then it got cut to 13 episodes, but then it got put back to 26 episodes. It obviously does feel like this was supposed to be a 13 episode series. and that was supposed to be like the cliffhanger there, and just have the sense of, okay, well, here's how it goes. And I would have absolutely loved for that to be the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, the ending would have kind of sucked because it's been a giant cliffhanger forever. But I mean, a lot of shows do that, you know?
Yeah, and it would have. But the thing about it is, like, the way that the show carries itself and delivers its story and the kind of
I don't think I would have been
atmosphere and mood
dissatisfied
it's
with
setting.
it.
Huh?
I said I don't think I would have been dissatisfied with it. I just think the ending would have been a bummer, but that's it.
Even ending it on the really weird episode in which Roger is like reliving a time in which was completely different for the city, like another time that it was remade. That episode where you just at the end of it, he's like, "No, I know who I am who I am, and the show must go on." I thought that would have been a fine way to end it. It was weird, but
that was the first episode of season 2.
Yeah, exactly.
And nah, dude. Like,
if that was like an OVA edition or something, they could have probably wrapped it up like that.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, granted, yeah, I totally would have been down if it was just like he takes on all 3 of these dudes, and then like instead of leaving it like what's gonna happen next, if it's just like and he defeats them by the power of being fucking cool, like that's fine with me. I would have been good with that ending as well.
But the thing is, for me, like I would have been fine with the end of episode 13 because the way that it has set everything else up is that even though Roger is consistently faced with some wild degree of adversity and challenge and scope of just wild shit that goes down, he's always risen to the occasion somehow. And I kind of got the end of that. That was like, yeah, he'll be fine. Paradigm City is going to be okay. He's going to wreck some ass. And he'll probably get hurt in the process, but it'll be fine.
I kind of get what you're saying now, because it would have been implied that, yeah, he's going to win, and this is going to keep on being a thing of the city, you know?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay, I can kind of buy that.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way that I viewed it, because the thing is, there wasn't ever a huge degree of, like, struggle, necessarily, throughout the first half of the show, which, again... Like, some shows I have issue with, like in a bulletproof protagonist, but again, the way that the show has consistently worked to deliver its characters, its story, its setting, and its just general atmosphere and idea, it didn't bother me that it set it up this way.
Yeah, and it also borrowed a lot from other anime at the time, like Cowboy Bebop and Trigun and a couple of others, in which... you can have this protagonist who is seemingly bulletproof, but then every now and then, whenever, you know, they're not in the middle of action, they're getting their comeuppance, which is like very much what Dorothy was doing all the time, playing the piano to wake him up and pissing him off and making him be a goofball.
You're an absolute louse, Roger Smith.
Yeah, like just a total goofball during those times makes you feel like, oh, okay, they're not perfect. And so you can kind of like forgive it a little bit more.
And so it's just, I guess, my only context for this... Oh, sorry, go on.
I'm sorry. I thought we were done, but you continue. I was going to say something about the next part. So.
Oh, okay.
I was leading into the next part.
Okay.
My only context for this show is I would watch Toonami a lot when I was a kid, and I would see ads for Big O. And somehow, I never really caught an episode of Big O ever, except the very first episode. And I saw it once, and I really loved the aesthetic of it, the idea of it, but I just kind of never ended up seeking it out to watch the rest of it, ever. And so going into this, I just had this as the context of, I remember seeing this as a kid. And I was just, Googling around just a little bit, and I saw people talking about, like, what the fuck happened with season 2? And I'm like, what do you mean? And so I didn't go much deeper. So I was watching season 1, and I'm like, I'm digging this a lot. What are they going to do with the second half exactly? And then the second half happened.
Yeah, episode 14. If you guys were anything like I was, you probably were wondering, like that the memory flashback sequence started, and I'm like, this is the same show, but this is not the same show. Mm-hmm. That was my first thought. I was like, this is like shell shock in a way.
Yes. because going from a whole 13 episode run where Roger is this kind of a smart ass, rough and tumble kind of negotiator, gentleman kind of type that handles pretty much everything in his way and is very self-assured.
Yeah, very
immediately
sexy,
going
suave,
to
can get it done.
Yeah, and immediately going to oh my god, I'm in a parallel universe and I'm going to question everything about myself and start talking in weird platitudes.
It felt very just I mean, it kind of makes sense looking back on it, but in the moment I was like, this is so out of character.
The episode is very jarring, yeah.
And I know there's been episodes in anime like that before where they do like the flashback thing and you're in a parallel world and then they snap back into it. So I kind of knew that's what was happening, but I was like, this just doesn't feel right.
Sure, yeah. And like, I don't have any issue with like the whole parallel world thing itself.
Yeah, I don't either.
That's fine. My issue comes from this episode kind of completely reframed Roger's character in a way that seems very incompatible with what had been set up prior to this. And yeah, jarring is a good word to use there. I'm not saying that he can't develop as a character in any way necessarily. I'm not saying that there's no need for introspection for him, but the way that they kind of rolled it out was
it was a lot the first few minutes.
Yeah, it was a lot the whole 20-some minutes.
It was one of those things where it happened and at first I was like put off by it because it was so jarring for me, but then like as the next couple of episodes led on, I was like, actually no, I'm kind of okay with that. Because I liked the idea of this person who realizes that they're the main character in a play, and that they may or may not have full control over their actions, but they're trying to go through it and figure that out, which is basically what he came to the conclusion of at the end of that episode. And then they set it up where like the people in the audience in that metaphor where he was on stage, it was not him, it was like these other players in the game. And that was very interesting to me, and I liked how they worked around that with the whole like head of the Monopoly organization and all the other characters. That was very interesting to me. I actually enjoyed that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was okay after a few episodes. Like me, like it took a couple episodes to adjust, and I was like, okay, well this is the way the show is now, so it's fine. Like I'll just go with whatever's thrown at me. Like it's like what they're doing is fine. It feels a little off from the first, because you just watch the first half and you're like, oh my god, it's so kind of different. And it's the same characters, it's kind of different. But it's fine. Like I'll just go with the story. It makes sense. There's no issue. And that's kind of the way I felt.
Like contextually speaking, the second half is not at its core a bad show. It just seems weirdly incongruous with the first half, is all.
Yeah, I would say I could agree with that. Yeah, like, it kind of feels like they're just so different in how they approach things, I feel like.
To me, it felt like the style and tone were the same, but the theme behind it was different. Because the first season was very much this episodic, like, looking at these individual characters and then the world as a character as a whole. And it was like, we're just going to wrap this up in a neat little bow of 13 episodes that don't always necessarily have to do with each other. There's like some follow through where like you see that there are recurring characters, but for the most part, they're just kind of their own segmented episodic episodes exploring this cool world that we've created. But the theme behind that one very much did seem to be about like coming to terms with like that whole amnesia, but the theme for the second one was it was very dictated by this whole like find the truth kind of mentality, and I feel like because of that, even though it's the same character's style and tone, it just starts feeling a little bit it definitely felt a little bit different. I still didn't have too much that I felt bad about as far as that went. Especially because like I liked some of the ideas that they had where they had these individual arcs that was basically equivalent of like one of the episodic episodes, but it's just spread out over 3. And I was like, oh, I like that. That's real nice. or these like small little mysteries, and then they wrap them up. Except for like one or two unanswered questions, and you're like, oh no, what's gonna happen next? I liked that. It was just when it started actually like putting the final couple of puzzle pieces in, I felt like it was a lot of, this ain't the right piece, but I'm gonna make it fit anyway.
Yeah, oh god, like
Yeah.
like I don't necessarily have issues with some of the directions that the second half went in. Like, I feel as though the introduction of the other like Megaduces and such, and adding some consistent overarching villains was kind of nice.
Yeah.
It was an interesting little shift there. It didn't need to necessarily be there, but it wasn't a bad development. But man, yeah, like going in the last 3-4 episodes, when they completely jumped the shark and went full on like all the world's a stage and we're merely players in it, but literally, that's when it kind of lost me real hard, and I was like,
The funny thing was for me is I saw her walk into that room, and I was like, oh boy, is this where we're gonna go? And I was thinking, I'm like, are they really gonna do this right now? Yeah. And then they ended up doing it, and I was like, okay, like that's fine, it makes sense, but I was like, that is definitely not where I would have said 13 episodes ago that this was gonna go. And I'm like, you look back like several episodes, and I'm like, we got here somehow. It's not bad, but I'm confused a little bit. And this is really different, and I don't know what to do.
Once again, I did not hate what the ending was trying to do. I just am not the biggest fan of how it went about it, which is very similar to like some other stuff. Like for instance, like oh, you guys haven't seen that. Erica 7 AO was like a sequel series to Erica 7, and it's like you can tell by like, I want to say like 6 episodes until the end that it was basically them and the writers meeting. They're like, fuck, I thought we had a full 24 episodes. Oh shit. and they're like, all right, think about this. condense down.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it doesn't even feel like they were trying to condense a story here.
It's not rushed. It's just bungled. Like, it's they had an idea, and they're like, how can we get this to work? And then somebody came up with it, and they're like, you're getting a raise, Carl. Carl did not deserve the raise.
Because, like, here's the thing. The idea of a city and a whole group of its inhabitants not knowing anything from 40 years ago past and anything before that, again, wild idea, but its execution works, and it is confident enough to pull it off. I do not see the start of that series have its conclusion literally be, well, no one has any memories because this city is literally a stage with giant, big as God stage lights above it, and has been constructed to where literally everyone in it is made to not have memories so they can serve a role as actors in a play that's going on live on this stage, which is this city, which is this whole world.
You know what's really funny?
I just it's saying that one sec. Just saying all that is some of the most batshit insane stuff that has come out of my mouth, I feel like, because that sounds like I've gotten really drunk and have tried to describe like the plot of Our Town or something.
No. Yeah. But here's the thing: is that like, well, two things. Matt, you go first, though.
Oh, I just wanted to say that if you think about it on a logical level and trying to mentally process all that, like, it's a lot.
Yes, it is. Like, your brain doesn't have the RAM to go through that. It's like, are you serious right now? Are you okay? Did you have a stroke?
It's like, well, okay, two things. First, it was written, the head writer was the same person who wrote Serial Experiments Lane. So, like, you know... It's one of those things where it's like, oh, fuck, we should have seen that coming. Not we should have seen what was going to happen. We should have seen that it was about to get real fucking weird.
Okay, but really existential really fast.
Yeah. But Serial Experiments Lane got really existential from the start.
That's also true.
It's-
I think
it's
that's the main
different.
difference here. Is that
like Serial Experiments Laid from episode 1, where you're like, this is going to be really existential, really weird. I'm not going to walk out of this fully satisfied with what happened, because I'm not going to understand it.
Right.
Big O, I thought I was going to walk out of it like, yeah, he smashed them robots good and saved day. I don't know if they're going to have memories again, but that's okay. He smashed them good with piston arms.
and instead we came out and it was more like, oh my god, is this the Matrix or something?
Yeah,
Well,
it's like-
yeah, I mean, I feel like it's definitely.
We
definitely
get
pulled
out,
from
and it's
that.
like, did anything matter? We got back to the first episode.
It's kind of funny
just-
because around the same time the first Matrix movie released, and I almost feel like it's like the writers just got out of that theater and they're like, wait a fucking second, how many episodes we got left? They're like, I don't know, like 6? Perfect.
It's like, how quick can we change course?
But the second thing that I was gonna say was, it's really funny if you want to see this like weird ass existentialism, everything's fake in a state, in the whole world's a stage. If you want to see that done right, watch the Lego Movie, because that's literally the plot of the Lego Movie. It's
That's interesting.
Have you guys seen it?
No.
Big
Nah, dude,
big
I've
spoiler,
wanted to.
but towards the end of it, literally one of the characters accidentally enters the real world and realizes that they're all just Legos being played with.
Choice. Okay.
Not
It's
much
like-
different than the last half of Big O. Okay.
It's like fucking
Yeah, basically.
bonkers. But they do an interesting thing to it, because then it becomes a metaphor of like how you choose to play, why we play, and the different ways in which we play. And I was like, fucking didn't expect
it's not,
that.
It's not two big Lego boys smushed together and the world resets.
Right, like but I did not expect that going into a movie that was literally just billed as like, look, the Lego people got the rights to all these licenses. Let's show off Superman meeting up with fucking Captain Marvel in the movie.
Yeah. I don't dislike Big O.
That's the thing.
Getting out
No,
of this.
Yeah.
I can't say that I dislike the show at all.
Even the second season, I'm like, yeah, it's all right. I still enjoy the second season.
Yeah, it's still good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
I mean, it really is, and that's the astounding thing. Like, because I feel as though a show that flip-flops and flounders its way through itself this much really shouldn't leave me still liking it as much as I do at the end of this. But even though it gets so weird in execution in the whole second half, it still kind of does go with a lot of that rule of cool.
Yeah.
And it still is asking a lot of the viewers to kind of completely suspend their disbelief. And it's still really fun to watch. I still have a great time with it. I still think that the characters, even though some of their development and motivations are a little weird and off-center for them, are still great. I'm thoroughly dissatisfied with how it ended plot-wise and how it tried to explain everything.
I'm dissatisfied
and
about
failed miserably in doing it.
Yeah, I'm dissatisfied just in that, like, I was all right with how they wanted to end it. I'm just not all right with how they wrote that, how they got
Right.
there.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of the same for me. Like, I'm okay with that direction. It was interesting, nonetheless.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
And as Kyle said earlier, I see what they're trying to do with it. It's just like, if you just look at the journey, though, it's like,
This is gonna get me so much hate, but that is exactly how I feel about the Star Wars prequels. Is that if you look at the big plot points that they hit, they're great. You know, all these different worlds and all these different alien races and this, and you have this hero's journey and this. But how they wrote that's that needed some work. You need a couple of QA.
Yeah.
Sitting back and thinking about this, the only thing that comes to mind is that I think SSSS Gridman did this story extremely well.
I need to finish
Because
this. Well, here's the thing: SSS
Okay,
I don't
Gridman
know.
like,
is
I don't know
actually
about
like,
this, but
for some reason, everybody
Gridman
is really,
still has some fumbles here.
Yeah, everybody's still
Like,
really
I'm-
mixed on that though. For Gridman.
I'm not here to say that it is an excellent way of like
I don't
everything's
think,
a stage.
yeah, I
But-
don't think that Gridman is necessarily like the pinnacle of what this is trying to do. But no,
I'm not saying it's the
but-
pinnacle of it.
No,
But
it's the Lego
I think
movie.
maybe
Changed my
it's a
mind.
good maybe it's a good example.
Yeah. I'm just bringing it up as a recent example because
Yeah.
I have not seen anything else recently try to do this.
Yeah, it's similar in that way though. Yeah, I see where you're going. I see where you're going. I see where you're going with this. So.
Though to be fair, now that I'm really thinking about it, honestly, I'm kind of actually swayed to Big O in a weird sense here because it just leans so hard into it.
It does.
I really do appreciate that it just
It's-
decided to go
it's
really
so
hard on it.
sincere with how much it loves being cool and crazy.
I think I actually really deeply appreciate the shot of the big duo just slowly rising into the air and being defeated because it flies into a giant stage light suspended
Yeah.
above the city.
Yeah, that was
And I
that was
think
when we were
really-
just learning about all that stuff, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is really where they're gonna go with this."
I think really now that I sit down and take some time to percolate on that because I finished this pretty recently, like within the last few hours.
Yeah, same.
Before recording this.
Yeah, me too.
And, I don't know. Actually, you know what? I've changed my mind.
Yeah,
I think that
it's starting to settle, and like it's the same thing with me. It's starting to settle, and all you're saying like, no, that was fucking great. Like,
yeah, like it's stupid. It should not have wrapped itself up the way it did. Like again, I like the idea of it. Execution very poor, but at the same time, it died as it lived. Completely leaning into itself.
Big O is that boy. He's your boy, and he's doing his little competition. You know, the little cars, and he gets second place. But he's just so damn happy that you just can't you can't be mad. You're just like, oh, I love you, kid. That's all right. You did good. Yeah, it's funny too because as I was watching through, there's a bunch of quotes from various people in the journalism industry that are like Big O. They ranked it as the best anime series to binge watch, and then good old Dan Casey over at the Nerdist was like, "This is the anime series that I am most eager to see rebooted or remade of all time." Like, he's like, "Fuck yes, give me this again."
I'd watch this again.
I would too.
You know, and the funny thing was, is a little while ago, I would have been like, you know, I think I got what all this got to offer, but honestly, I'd watch it again.
I mean,
like,
here's the thing, though, is that, like, as much as I think that they really bungled that ending, they also showed me a butler who's, like, 60-something, probably, who has a fucking machine gun and a grenade launcher.
yeah,
And he
that
just
happened.
is taking out robots left and right. And then... And he's like, oh, damn. He's like laughing as he's doing it. And I'm laughing my ass off. And then just the rule of cool, he's like, damn, I ran out of ammo. And the android just tosses him another clip to put in. It's just like, hell yeah. It just blows up another fucking robot. Gosh, it was so good. Yeah, no, I genuinely love this show. If it was the first season, I would have given it a 10 out of 10. But where it stands now, I'd probably only still give it like a 7.58. Like, I still love it. It just speaks to me.
It's so good. It's something else for sure. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's just something you gotta watch. Like,
You gotta watch Big O. Yeah.
It's just kind of it's its own kind of ride.
I just am so happy. I'm so happy about it. But yeah, I think that's pretty much Big O. It's really good. It loves itself, and it's the rule of cool.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, that's the show.
Yeah, I guess we'll catch everybody for the next one. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. As always, you can find all our podcasts, articles, videos, etc. at thebacklogers.com. Our intro and outro song is The Bear by Shell in the Pit, who you can find on Spotify and Bandcamp. And we'd love to hear from y'all in the comments on our site, on the podcast platform of your choice, or by whispering into your watch that it's showtime. And we'll come crashing up from the ground below you in about 15 seconds or so. And as always, we're on Twitter at _Backloggers, so stop in for a bit.